When it's snowing outside and cold, I like to stay inside, pour myself my favorite cup of coffee, stand around, look at my beautiful Christmas tree I have in my home, getting excited for the holidays, pull up a nice chair, put a nice cozy pillow down, and reading holiday confessions. Hello and welcome to Learn with Jess. I am Jessica and today I'm going to read some confessions that I was sent. I have 2 teacher confessions, 2 student confessions, and a special one for the end. Starting with confession number 1. This one's called The Rude Colleague. I worked with a colleague that was just rude. He always talked over me and would purposely try to correct anything I said. He would try to act smarter every opportunity given. This went on the entire school year. Right before Christmas break, I saw there was a Christmas bag in his mailbox. When nobody was looking, I took the bag out and took the gift. I replaced it with a sticky note and wrote, "You suck." I would be worried that somebody would see me. I've had colleagues that weren't like my best friends, but definitely not something I would do, but again, to each their own. Confession number 2. This one's called Lose Weight. I had a coworker who constantly complained about her students and her weight. The problem was she did nothing about either of the problems. She let her students do whatever they wanted, which caused problems in my class since the students didn't like having boundaries. I even talked to her about it and she kept saying it is just easier not to punish or give consequences. During Christmas, we do Secret Santa. I may have convinced the teacher in charge to give me my coworker. I decided to get her something to finally show her she's in charge of her life and her choices. While we were all opening Secret Santa presents, she opened her gift, which was 2 training sessions to the gym. She said thank you, but I could secretly tell she was embarrassed. I also had given her a book on classroom management. Actually, those aren't bad gifts, I would say. I wouldn't mind a couple of those gifts myself. But maybe this would help the teacher decide to start making different decisions, because I know classroom management is really tricky and a lot of teachers have a hard time with it. So I don't know, maybe it did help. All right, we're going to move on to the student confessions. Student confession number 1. This one is called My Favorite Teacher. I was a freshman in high school and just started a new school. My parents just got divorced and I had to move in with my grandma while my mom got back on her feet. My dad traveled for work, so it was unrealistic for me to live with him anyways. I had a teacher who was really cool. I didn't get much interaction with my dad since we moved, but it was nice to have another male in my life. He often could tell when I was feeling down and always offered to talk if needed. Well, around Christmas, the teacher's personal computer broke. He mentioned he had it forever, but he couldn't get another one. I assumed it was probably money related. I would see him lesson planning after school, writing out everything instead of having his own computer. I didn't get why the school doesn't provide the teachers with computers. Well, I had a computer my dad had given me and honestly never really used it. I wiped the hard drive and got rid of anything personal, which wasn't a lot. One day I showed up really early for study hall and I noticed he was not in his classroom, but luckily the door was open. I had been carrying that computer with me for weeks. I gave him the computer with a note that said, "Thanks for being an awesome teacher." I remember after that he would ask every day for a week if anyone had given him the computer, but I never said a word. I ended up having him for my entire high school experience. If it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have become a teacher myself. I really thought this was a great confession, and I think it's great that that student gave the teacher the computer. I know in our district, we did not have laptops until after the pandemic we were given. Before, it was just a desktop old computer that was super slow and always decided to update during lesson planning or when I had my observations. But that's super nice that the student did that for his teacher. Confession number 4, the ugly mole. One year I had a teacher who was mean. No matter what I did, my assignment was always wrong. She constantly picked on students who struggled. I complained about her to the principal, but it never really helped. She had this ugly mole on her face. I often wonder if that was why she was so angry. Well, before Christmas break, I sent her an anonymous card that said, "You are ugly like your mole." I told no one about it. Well, a month later, it turns out she got the mole checked and it was cancerous. She ended up getting it removed, so I probably saved her life. She was still mean after the mole was gone, showing that she was ugly inside and had nothing to do with the mole. Well, at least the teacher found out that the mole was cancerous and got it removed. If you had watched my horrible student teaching experience, you know that I personally had to observe a teacher who was very rude to her students. So I know it happens sometimes, but if you're that unhappy with your job or your students, find something else to do. I feel like it's too much wasted energy. All right, so I saved the best for last. I got sent this, but I don't see it as a confession. I think it's more of a story. So I'm just gonna read this story for the end of this video, and hopefully it gives you warm fuzzies like it did me. I had a bad childhood. My dad and mom were always fighting. My brother was arrested, just not something I enjoy really talking about. Your video brought up a memory for me. I wasn't the best student, I hardly focused in school, and I liked to argue with my teachers. But there was one teacher who was always kind to me no matter what. I remember she always dressed nicely and had a warmth about her. I remember at times being jealous she wasn't my mom. Right before Christmas break, she pulled me into the hall. I thought I was probably going to get in trouble or something. Instead, she gave me a bag of personal items, a hairbrush, some hair ties, some body wash, and a flavored chapstick. She just handed me the bag and said, "Merry Christmas." She also wrote me a note about how she felt I was very bright and how I could do anything I wanted to when I grow up. Sadly, I had lost the note years later, but I remember it was very positive. I never had another teacher like her, but every year I always remember the kindness she showed me. So I really wanted to read this story because I think it's just a great little story about how teachers can have an impact in their students' lives. We do see the struggle and the hurt that students get, and especially around the holidays, we always want to do something special for those students because a lot of times they don't get anything special at home or they're in a crappy environment. So thank you whoever shared that story. That was really sweet, and that's such a great story to end the video. If you have not already checked out my first video, Teacher Confessions, make sure you check that out. And I hope you have a beautiful holiday season. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.